Welcome to Ask the Latina. I'm your host, Terry Beltran. This program is about the opportunity to ask and learn from a Latina trailblazer, with the mission to inspire and motivate Latinas to enter a career where we just do not have enough representation. For more resources, visit our website, askthelatina.com. Welcome to Ask the Latina. My guest is Tatiana Carettt. She has a wonderful background, not only in health, but in technology. So I'm really excited to have her with us today as our guest. Hi, Tatiana.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me on. This is such a treat.
It's a treat for us, too. Well, why don't you start with your heritage, where you grew up? What was it like growing up? And what was high school like for you and your interest in going to college?
Yeah, so great question. So maybe I'll start from the very beginning. How's that? So people can understand. I was born in New York City. That's where I am right
Oh,
now, but raised in Caracas, Venezuela. My parents are Venezolanos, and my mom was a Spanish language and literature teacher. She taught for 25 years. So education was the center of everything we did. It was all about knowledge. And the great thing is that growing up, I was encouraged to explore, read, learn. Nothing was too difficult, right? Or the more difficult the subject, the more interesting it was,
yeah.
right? So I feel very lucky because, my mom, when we came back to the United States, we had to start from scratch. So in Venezuela, we had an upper middle class lifestyle. By the time I was 6 years old, I took tap, jazz, ballet, modeling, karate, English, and art. And when we came here, we couldn't afford any of that. So I really love science and math because those were the subjects that were super interesting to me, how the human body worked. And, are we, who else is living outside of our galaxy?
Right.
Right? So all of that is science. And I really wanted to go into medicine, but I was growing up in a single parent household and money was not there. So even though my mom and I sat down when I was 15 years old to kind of do a strategic plan on my university studies, it was a dream that I had to let go, and it was really
Mm.
hard. But I think that you need to. Ooh, sorry, I get a little
Yeah.
emotional because many of us have
Mm.
dreams and we have to let go of certain things. But looking back, we did the best we could, and um, my mom had friends who were in the healthcare field, and it was like, okay, well, what else can you do, right? And one of my mom's friends is a speech language pathologist. She's brilliant. She's been in the field for 30 years. Someone that should also do an interview like this because her career is
Oh,
really
yeah.
interesting. And I was like, oh, wow, I love languages. I love languages too. And she said, well, speech language pathology is a wonderful field, but you should really think about physical therapy. So I was like, what does that mean? I was totally lost, right? If any of you feel like, what is physical therapy? That's exactly how it was with me. Um, and I did a lot of research, and then I did an internship in high school. I was at a hospital, orthopedic
Mm.
hospital, and I got to volunteer. It was a structured internship. So I got to shadow a physical therapist and help them. And I was in an inpatient floor Then I was in an outpatient clinic. And then I saw everything. They were great. They really exposed me to different areas of rehabilitation
Wow.
medicine. And then I was like, this is it. And that's how I, you know, really put in a lot of work to continue to study the sciences and then apply to programs and get in. So that was my long trajectory.
So in physical therapy, did you see other Latinos like you, or were you one of the few?
There were none. There were none. What's interesting is that physical therapy is primarily female,
Mm,
but it's primarily
mm,
Caucasian. And I think, well, some of the data that I saw, and this was a little bit ago, like 88% of the physical therapy workforce was Caucasian
mm,
females. Um, Now, I would have to look at the data now, which I don't know, but it's not that many. And when I was doing my clinical rotations, because once you first you have to take all your prerequisites and then you apply to a program and then you're in the program and then you have to do clinical affiliations, which is like structured internships where it's kind of like you have to show that you know what you're doing and you get graded on it. There were not a lot of Latinas or African American
mm.
females.
I think
So,
it's still like that. At least from my experience, I've my mom was a registered nurse, but then when she was ill and she needed physical therapy, I noticed that there wasn't very many at all, African American or Latinas or Latinos.
no.
And I had a little accident with I fell off the ladder and I shattered my tibia bone, so I had many years of physical therapy. So, and in that, I'm recalling that, yeah, most of them were female, but they were Caucasian, and there were no Latinas or even African American. So, yeah, it's interesting. And yet, I think there's probably a need for it because we know that we have a lot of a lot of immigrants come here and they have rough labor and they probably don't even take care of themselves. They don't realize what they need to take care of themselves, and physical therapy is amazing. I would say I am so grateful for that, or I never thought I could be walking again, and I thought there's no way I'm going to be able to
Wow.
bend
Yep.
my knee or anything. So, um, I was amazed. I thought everything that they pushed me to do did work, and I didn't think so, and I'm glad for it. I'm grateful for it because it's an amazing thing that your body, that you teach someone how to start working their body again.
Yep. Yep. And I loved the discipline. I practiced for 11 years. I have a Bachelor of Science in Physical Therapy from NYU. I continued on. I did a Master of Arts in Developmental
Mm,
Disabilities, which I describe as a specialization in pediatrics. You learn everything: anatomy, physiology, biomechanics, kinesiology, which is how body segments move together. It's like pre
yeah,
med. You have to take, even before you go into a program, you have to do organic chemistry, chemistry, biology, physics, pre cal, everything. You need to know everything. And then when you start practicing, depending on where you go, and most therapists are either in an acute care
mhm,
hospital, right, in the inpatient
mhm,
units, which I did. I worked at Weill Cornell Medical Center here in New York City, which is part of the New York Presbyterian Hospital um, uh, affiliated
yeah,
hospitals. I was there for a decade. I did
wow,
everything. Name a specialty, I've done it: orthopedics, neurology, burns, vascular, cardiopulmonary. Um, I worked in an inpatient rehab unit, which is really hard because you're seeing your patients for an hour and a half each day, and they come in with strokes or they're post a heart attack, or they may have had some kind of traumatic event, and needed reconstructive surgery. I mean, we've seen people with in car accidents,
Hmm.
right, with open fractures, which is like putting the patient back together again. And these orthopedic doctors and rehab doctors and vascular surgeons, they're amazing because we I've seen a lot of trauma, people in burning buildings. I was in a burn unit too.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a great discipline. You learn so much. You get challenged every day. But then I realized that I wanted to improve the healthcare system. So it was like, okay, back to school, back to school. So um, I guess what I want to say to everybody who's seeing this is that you can fall in love with a discipline and be in it, and then step back and say, what else do I want to do? Or how can I take what I know and transfer it somewhere else to do something else that I'm passionate about?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So, well, physical therapy, just kind of drilling back, you do take a test to get your license there, or how does that work?
Yeah. So maybe I'll just briefly go over. Um, in high school, I think the great thing that you can do is do really well in the sciences, get familiarized with that. As an undergrad, you need to major in one of the sciences. Um, and then the physical therapy discipline and education has shifted since a lot since I was in school. I have a bachelor's, and I before you could have practiced with a bachelor's. Now you have to get what's called a clinical
Mm,
doctorate or a DPT degree. The idea is kind of like a juris doctor or a dentist, right? A
mm,
DDS, Doctor of Dental Sciences, or Juris Doctor. It's an entry level doctorate degree.
wow.
So in your undergrad, you have to focus on a science and then do really, really well in all the prerequisites. And then you apply as a grad student to it's a 3 year degree, and then you become, you get your clinical doctorate, and then you do have to take a board licensure exam because all of these disciplines like dentistry, um, right? Optometry, nursing, PT, OT, speech. You need to take a licensure
Mm.
exam in order to make sure that show that you have the knowledge to do it. And you sit for the exam after you
Oh,
graduate.
okay. Okay. And the exam is pretty intense, or is it pretty much um,
It can be intense because they can, and actually, after a couple of years after graduating, I was part of the Federation of State Boards of Physical
mm,
Therapy, and I was an item writer for the
wow.
test. Um, yeah, yeah, which was a lot of fun too. But basically, you can get asked anything about any of the subjects that are covered in a standard DPT
Hmm.
program.
Well, that's really interesting. Okay, so then you decided to go into Horizon and look at doing a whole different area, but still in the healthcare. What was your next step there?
Yeah, so I realized that I was really interested in administration, healthcare management. How are we, as a healthcare system, how are we ensuring that our patients are getting the best outcomes of care? Because I was seeing, you know, a lot of the issues that we grapple with as a society regarding healthcare,
Mm,
right? Such as affordability of care, lack of insurance, access to care, quality, right? Just because you're insured and you go and see a physician or any other provider doesn't mean that that provider is going to give you the best
mhm,
care, right? You may not have the best results either.
yes.
So I then realized that I wanted to solve these kind of big items in a more holistic and large scale way, kind of looking at it, how do we transform the system? How do we redesign the
Mhm.
system? And in my research, I found that there's a lot of companies that they're called consulting companies, and basically they provide advisory services. They're kind of like an external person coming in and telling you, well, this is what I see. We can do
Hmm.
evaluations and we can understand how to improve um, business processes. We can do business process reengineering, or we can do change management or project management. And that's how I decided to kind of go into this route. And then I just got very interested in, okay, how do I improve my business acumen? How do I improve my leadership skills, right? Because everything that I'd done before was treating one patient at a
Hmm.
time. But what I wanted to do was kind of use my clinical operations skills and apply it more on a program level basis, right? How are hospitals working or not? How's the insurance industry working or not? How it all works
Yes.
together. So I went back to school and I did a joint program. It's not for the faint of heart. It's a lot of work. Um, and I did a master's in public
Mm.
health, master's of business administration, so MPH MBA, that's the acronym, in healthcare leadership and management at Johns Hopkins
Wow.
University. And it's really a unique program. It's a lot of fun, and it really did provide a lot of great tools that I use all the time.
So did you take them both at the same time? It sounds like the MBA and the okay. Yeah,
Yes.
I never heard of the other one. I know MBA, but I've never heard the other one. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So, simultaneously, you got both degrees. Wow,
Yes.
that's great.
Uh,
That's great.
It's efficient.
And yeah, I think so too. I mean, why not, you know? So, because yeah, it's almost like another 3 years or whatever, but still, and to have both of them together is really great. I'm glad you did that. So that's pretty cool. And now what kind of assignments were you able to do? I mean, you went into this because you wanted to see an improvement in this area. What kind of challenges and what kind of experiences have you had a chance to be part of?
Oh yeah, great question. So, and you're right. If doing both programs saved me a lot of time, because doing them separately would have been like either 3 or 4 years, and I did everything in like 18 months,
Oh,
which is
that's great.
insanity. Um, so, the Masters in Public Health really affords you a way of managing um, populations, the healthcare of populations. You're looking at it. Before, I would treat, you know, patients with arthritis and then they've had total hip replacements. Well, now you're looking at population based care and how you can intervene earlier, right?
Mhm.
To reduce, uh, you know, to basically reduce their risk, right?
Yeah.
Um, and the MPH has become a little bit more mainstream after COVID, because now people understand, oh, well, disease outbreaks, right? You have public health practitioners that are looking at data to understand where these outbreaks are taking place and then trying to find out why these diseases are spreading. So for the MPH, it's a lot of biostatistics and epidemiology, which is like understanding disease states, right, and the origin
Mm.
of disease and how they move throughout populations. And the MBA is really like your business skills, your business acumen, right? Like finance, accounting, economics, right? How
Mhm.
efficient markets are, strategy, operations, right? But together, I felt like I needed to do them both because um, I wanted to have a really holistic view on healthcare. It's a very nuanced area. It doesn't behave like any other industry. And
Mm.
some of the things that we worked on were, you have X amount of money, and how are you going to distribute it within, you know, 5 million people, for example? Like a lot of and you're seeing that now, right? Like healthcare is so expensive in the United States. How do we bend the cost curve? How do we use the resources that we have to deliver care that's faster, better, cheaper, with better outcomes? And if you look at the United States right now, we're not the best at doing that. We're still
Mhm.
working through a lot of issues to, you know, figure out better ways to deliver care.
Right, and when we look at our community, as far as Latinas go, there's, a learning curve because we don't have that in our Latin American countries, and it's a little different. So, it's complicated, to
Yes.
understand, because there's so many different plans and so many different levels, and you never know what to expect, and especially for new, families that come here that might not have any to find out how much it costs just for a simple shot, possibly. It's pretty traumatic. So, and it's great that you're in this area. Have you had a chance to work with, kind of studies with our community and see maybe if there's an improvement we can make in those areas that's so much needed?
Yeah, great questions. And thank you for that question. So when I was a PT, I worked at the hospital, but I also had a home care practice.
Oh,
And
that's
my focus was on a program called early intervention. Early intervention focuses on children from when they're born to up to 3 years of age, when they age out and they can receive services in a preschool setting, for example.
mhm.
Um, so my focus was going to underserved communities. And a lot of those underserved communities were primarily Latino or African American communities. And in New York, I would go to like the Queensbridge projects or the South Bronx or Jamaica
Mhm.
Queens or, Elmhurst or Jackson Heights, which is very, very Latino. And my focus there was to work with families with children with developmental delays because they needed a lot of help understanding these diagnoses like cerebral palsy or autism, right?
Mhm.
And helping them, teaching them, okay, your child has this diagnosis, and these are the interventions that we're doing, but these are the activities you can do with your child at home. They're learning activities, motor, fine motor, gross motor skills, um, sensory motor skills. So, when in my practice, I focused a lot on that. And here as a consultant, I've done so many different projects, but one of the biggest ones that really lends itself to improving healthcare for, big populations was working on the health insurance marketplace. So the what people call Obamacare, which is really the Affordable Care Act that was signed
ACA?
into
Mhm.
law in 2010, which was primarily a tool to increase insurance access for people, right? Um, I got to work on the with other companies that were doing the IT development and design of the website, and it was very rewarding because it was just such a big undertaking to start something from scratch, right? And so what this marketplace was doing was giving people that otherwise were going to be shut out of traditional healthcare insurance markets an ability to be able to buy insurance on the what's called the the insurance marketplace.
That's
Yeah.
great. That's sounds like you had such a great, experience, and everything that you touched on, you brought back to you to something even, the fact that you're a Latina, you can take a lot of that own experience into everything you've done, so, it's pretty exciting. You're well-rounded there with everything. You could
Thank you.
probably create a great solution. Just having all that knowledge and all that experience is really good. Where do you see yourself go next now that you've done all this?
Oh, thank you. I mean, I think that one of the things that I love is technology, and healthcare is still kind of working through applying a lot of the technologies that are out there or that are being developed to improve service delivery and to make it more efficient for more people to access care, right?
Mm.
So, um, I've done a couple other projects that are focused on like mobile applications, right? And release management. How do you release a mobile app so that more users can adopt it? Or
Mhm.
telehealth, right? Which is virtual care that helps people, it really supported us during the pandemic when we were, not able to go in person, right?
Mhm.
So I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited about what's to come. We're seeing a lot of, you know, people working, innovating out there to see, okay, how can we solve all of these issues? Sometimes it could be as simple as an app, right? Just
Mhm.
connecting providers to patients. But we're seeing all sorts of things, right? You have companies like ZocDoc. I mean, it was so simple, right? Being able to go ahead and, take a look at all the different doctors under your plan and be able to make an appointment, right?
Mhm.
It
Right.
wasn't done like that before, and now you can do it. Um, but yeah, I'm really excited to see whether we can use artificial intelligence and machine learning and remote patient monitoring to improve care beyond the four walls of like a hospital or a clinic. How do we get to patients earlier? How do we educate patients and give them the tools so that they can get their medications, follow up with appointments? That's what's really exciting to me.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, the pandemic has brought out some good stuff. I know it's always good something comes out of bad all the time, and I think
Yeah,
with this one, like the telehealth or being able to see your doctor, I mean, shoot, many of us are busy. I think I'd rather do that than ever to go to the office, or take away time. So, especially for a simple, I don't know, sinus infection or whatever, if we're not sure you have a flu or what, but just simple little things. It's great to be able to
exactly.
have that opportunity. And I think I saw some technology recently that I think you have to buy the monitor and it actually allows the person to check their heart level or something and it goes into the app or something like that. So
Yes.
so those things are really amazing and I'm really glad that we're embracing that and we're going further. So yeah, it's a pretty exciting time to be combining the 2 and going in that area. So
Oh, yeah,
can't wait.
absolutely.
Yeah, so you're gonna see amazing things happen. You'll probably be
Yes.
part of a lot of new things as well.
And so that's why we need amazing Latinas and Latinos that are watching us right now because they may not think that they have what it takes or that they're smart enough or that this is boring stuff, right? You think, oh, science, it's boring or I don't get it, right? But science, it's really about investigating, right?
Mhm.
Like you're a detective and you're trying to figure it out and you get all these clues and then you put it together to understand patterns, right? And that's where the
Mhm.
math can come in. Like a lot of we have so much data in healthcare and we need to learn to use it more wisely to see patterns, right?
Right,
Like in
right.
the Latino population, what diseases are most prevalent and why? Is it more genetics or is it more the environment? How do we prevent those diseases? Is it about behavior change, like modifying your lifestyle? Is it nutrition or something else, right? So that's where I think a lot of people watching can be the next, you can be the person who creates this breakthrough or who can develop a technology that makes it so much easier to do something else, right?
Yeah. Be able to help control the diabetes and different things, yeah. That is awesome. So now if you've got such a great history and you a wealth of knowledge and experience, what would you recommend to yourself if you went back in time now that you've gone through there? Is there something that you would recommend to yourself if you went back in time to see yourself in high school?
Wow. Yeah. Well, um, let's see. I think I was very shy. I was very confident in my academic abilities, but I wasn't confident in my leadership abilities.
Mm.
And I was afraid to lead. In the physical therapy program that I was in, there were about 50 students from everywhere, people that I'm still friends to this day, very good friends with. And they elected me as class president. And I said no because I wasn't confident in myself. I didn't think I could lead. I didn't think that I was going to be the best president they can have.
Hmm.
And if you don't believe it, it's not going to happen. Right?
True. Right. Exactly. But you become a very good leader. I mean, as far as everything that you're doing, it's really pretty cool. I mean, I think in high school, most kids kind of get a little scared of being in front, and
Yes.
it's just kind of natural because they're not used to it. And depending on the school too. Unfortunately, not all schools are equal as far as allowing kids to present and giving those skill sets that they need before they graduate from high school. So um, so it's natural, but yeah, it's a really good thing to kind of advise yourself to try and get out of your shell and try it, even though you're scared, I guess. So
Yes. And
yeah.
also, I mean, well, I grew up without the internet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I know we didn't have
I
that.
would have to go to the library and look at books and look at magazines and microfiche. I know no one knows what that is. Don't worry. If you want to Google it, you can. But there was no internet until, you know, later on, and not everybody had access to, computers. Uh,
Or even iPhone. Our phones were not like that at all.
yeah, no, I mean,
We had bag phones. It's
exactly.
sad.
So I think that the generation now is definitely in a better position because you have access to the technology, you've grown up with it, you're going to see it evolve. Take advantage of that. Be curious, ask questions, and if you can't find it, go to the next person and the next person, do your research and do it. But I also feel that, I have definitely a curiosity about, you know, more of the tech. Because if you think of it, like, I am in STEM, I'm the science, I'm the math, I'm a little bit of the technology, but I'm nothing
Mhm.
of the engineering. That would be great. I would love to round myself out with some more engineering. And I have a lot of friends who are software engineers, biomedical engineers. I studied with a biomedical engineer at Hopkins. He was very smart. There's industrial engineers who look at processes. There's
Mhm.
operations research scientists. There's like all kinds of different types of engineers. I think that people should be curious about those fields too, because we have a deficit in this country when it comes to those types of roles. We're not going to fill it fast enough. And we need all of you to think about, okay, you know, obviously you want to do something that you're passionate about. If you're not passionate about it, don't do it because it's always going to feel like a job. But if you're interested in it, really do your do your homework, try it out, get exposed to it. There's amazing organizations. Um, there's La Latinita. Have you heard of them?
No.
Yeah, they do a lot of like science and tech engineering camps.
Uh,
I can share that
yeah.
info with you.
Yeah,
There's
that'd be great.
obviously, girls who code, black girls who
Yeah.
code.
Mhm.
Um, there's obviously, so I lead the New York City chapter of Latinas in Tech. We're a nonprofit that supports, connects, and empowers women in the tech sector through professional development, mentorship, and job search opportunities. Obviously, that's for later, right? When you
Yeah.
graduate, undergrad.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's
We'll
also,
send them to you.
huh?
We'll send them to you after we've mentored
Yeah,
them
just
in
send
high
them.
school.
But there's a ton of wonderful resources. Use them, and they're there for you. There's also HISPA for middle school that I didn't even know about,
Yeah. There's a
and
lot of
ASPIDA.
organizations. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Nationwide, there's so many. It's a nice thing. It just kind of gets so lost, and it's something, unfortunately, the community, once you get down there, they don't know about it. you know
Yes.
Schools don't really do a good job of promoting or giving those resources out. They're so busy with their own thing. So, and then parents are too busy working, and it's just not out there, unfortunately. But yeah, it is out there, and it's just a matter of looking. And I think, to your point, as far as the technology, not to be afraid of it. Here in Michigan, we have a company called Stryker who has a
Yes.
lot of engineers that do a
Yes.
lot of technology for the brain. And I know engineer students that are working there. They're like, I never imagined being an engineer, and working and designing some surgical instrument to do surgery, brain surgery, things like that. I'm like, that's pretty cool. Such a nice combination of the two, because
Yes, they do a
you're really
lot of
advancing.
biomedical devices. They're amazing.
Yeah, and it's an amazing area, because you're developing something to make surgery so much more safer and more advanced, and giving people a better chance of surviving. I
Yeah.
think it's a pretty cool combination. So I'm really glad that you shared your experience with us and inspired our Latinas in high school, and to see that there's so much out there, and the nice combination that you've had is really pretty neat. I mean, that's something that's so important for them to know, that the opportunities are out there. You just have to go for it, and always see what other opportunities there are out there, like you've done.
Yeah. So I think that if what I want everybody to get out of this is that you create your career, you should be passionate about it, you should be excited for it every day. You have the chance to change, to add things or take away things, like design it in the way that you want. Just because you studied one thing doesn't mean you're going to do that for the rest of your life. You can do other things and combine it, um, and create something that's unique to you. And another thing that's very important that I want to also touch on here is that, unfortunately, we don't see as many women in STEM or Latinas in STEM, is because the message is science is too hard, right? Or, oh, because you're a woman, you know, you may not be smart enough to do this. Or it's more important to be pretty, right? You can be beautiful and be smart. You can be beautiful and have two PhDs in, you know, aeronautical science and engineering. You know what I mean? Like, and, you know, it's, if you want to do something, you should have the opportunity to do it, right? Whether you have money or not. Like in my case, we had nothing. I made this happen, and I got scholarships, grants. My mother did not pay my education. I made it happen. So I worked 2 to 3 jobs all the time to get this done. Um, there is always a way, and so you just have to, you know, there's organizations out there to help you. You don't have to do it by yourself. I did a lot of things by myself. So that's the message, right? There is a way to do it. You can do it. It's not, science is beautiful, math is amazing. It's not hard. It's just intellectually stimulating. That's what I call it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and so with Esa Latina app, we're hoping to, be able to fill that gap where they will be able to see you with their phone, and be able to ask you questions, and be able to, connect with somebody, to be inspired, and to know, there is a Latina out there. because even though we're few, we are reachable now thanks to technology, and this is what we're going to make happen with the Ask the Latina app. So I'm sure that Latinas out there thinking, I want to reach out to her. So we hope that you'll be definitely part of that as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Very exciting.
Thank you so much, Tatiana, for everything, for sharing your time with us, inspiring our Latinas, and everything that you shared with us today. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for your questions. And if I made a positive impression in anyone, that's the value.
Oh, yes, I am sure you did. Well, this concludes our interview with Esta Latina. I hope you enjoyed this episode and you join us for the next one. Thank you.